Hi, welcome to Just in the Woods. I'm Justin, and today we're going to be doing a few different things. I'm going to go over a couple different skills that will help us in the future. Today we're going to make a wax jute tinder tube. Now there's a lot of ways you could go about doing this. I'm just going to show you what I've been doing and what's been working for me, and you could adjust it to however you see fit in the materials that you have available. So the first thing that you're going to need is you're going to need your jute twine. I'm going to show you something that a lot of people may not know, but you have what they might label in the store as heavy duty. And when you unravel it, you're going to get, 3 strands, and they make more or less than 3 strands as well, You'll also find what might be considered light or just regular jute twine, and that doesn't have the different strands with it that you could take off. It's just one piece. I just want to clear this up first. What I've been doing is I got these stainless steel reusable drinking straws. Found these in the camp aisle. I've just been cutting, little sections of these straws out. Now what I've learned is that they typically, and we'll show this with a caliber here in a second, but they end up leaving you with about a 3/16 hole. So our wax jute has to be able to go through that hole relatively freely. And what I've found, if you use a 3-ply heavy duty twine, you'll only need to do a 2-ply reverse wrap cordage. We're going to show you how this is done. If you have the light duty line, that's only one line, you will have to double it up. So it's 2 strands on this side, 2 strands on this side. We end up with 3/16 internal diameter. Now, this is the heavy duty line, which is only using 2 strands to make a little bit thicker cord. That kind of waffles kind of in this type of range up to about 1/8. And of course it does depend on, how it's turned. And this is with 4 individual strands on the light duty line to make this wick here. And you see that we're about 1/8. It depends on how you turn it, give or take. So however long you need it to be at the end, let's say you were wanting to make a wick that's 1 foot long, you're going to need 2 feet of your twine, and maybe just a touch more. You do lose a little bit, during this process, but it doesn't have to be exact. So what we're going to do is what's going to be called this is 1 and 2, a 2-ply reversed wrap cordage. So you're going to fold it over, and you're going to twist in between your 2 fingers here, your thumb and your pointer. You're going to twist away from you, come underneath with your middle, kind of pinch that, and then you're going to move your hand down, just like that. Now you have a new piece on the top, away, pinch, toward. Away, you're twisting, coming under, pinching, down towards you. And you're just going to do this a couple times here. And you know that you're going to be doing it right because it's going to stay. Now obviously if you pull really hard that'll unravel, but it's not going to unravel just by itself. So that's all you're going to do is you're just going to go up, you're just going to weave it down the length that you need. So as you can see, we're taking 2 strands, merging them into one, and getting a thicker piece of rope there. Now what I did to cut these little sections, I ended up using a pipe cutter, how you would in plumbing, like with a copper pipe. You could use a hacksaw, you could use a Dremel, have a fair amount of size on it, that way you could hold on to it. And that's really about it. Like I said, you don't have to use a reusable drinking straw for this. I've seen people do it out of aluminum cans. People have used copper tube, brass tube, brake line. But essentially, you need a metal tube of some sort, some type of natural material, such as jute, hemp, cotton, and you'll just make reverse wrap cordage out of that, just slightly smaller than the diameter of the hole is of whatever piece of metal that you're going to use. That's pretty much how that is. I know that's kind of long-winded, but I just want to explain everything, that there is to know about it from my knowledge about it. You're going to need to get some wax. Obviously, you need wax to wax the jute twine. You are going to need a heat source. I don't recommend doing this over open flame. If the wax gets down in there, it's going to be a mess. You know, it could flame up. You know, somebody could really get hurt or set a bunch of stuff on fire. So I wouldn't recommend doing this over an open flame unless you're absolutely careful. You're going to do this in a double boiler, which is essentially you're going to take a pot of water, you're going to bring that to a boil, and then there'll be another vessel sitting inside of that pot that will take the heat, you know, from the boiling water and be able to melt your wax. You could do it with another smaller pot. You could do it with, you know, like a glass bowl. I've seen people do it with old soup cans. They'd stick them down in there. And I'm going to show you kind of what I've been using, and what I've seen another guy do is we are going to make a bowl out of aluminum foil and float that in the water. That way it's less mess when everything's said and done. You also want to try to keep, you know, your cooking pots that you're using, you want to keep them clean. You know, do it with an old pot that you don't care about getting wax on. Same thing with the materials. You can use tongs, use an old fork, you know, something that you don't mind dirtying up a little bit. So we'll head over to the stove and we'll get started. Okay, so we're just gonna go and bring, you know, a pot of water to the boil. And we got a couple of these, you know, reverse wrap cords that we've been talking about. You can make them however big you need them. I like to keep stuff maybe 8 inches to 16 inches, you know, doing little sections like that. And you could always, you know, cut them down if you need to. Okay, we got that wrapped up, and now we have it floating in the water. The water is starting to boil a little bit, and so we're just going to heat up that foil, and we're just going to put a little bit of wax in there. I like to go ahead and chop it up just a little bit. Now just get a couple of little chunks in there, little slivers, whatever you have to do. And we'll just stick them down in there, and we wait. It's a little bit of a process, you know, we're just going to wait for everything to melt. Once that wax melts and we get a good amount in that little bowl that we made, then we could just go and start dipping our jute twine in there. If you put some smaller pieces and smaller shavings in there, those are going to melt faster and heat up quicker, and you'll get this rolling a little bit better instead of just putting solid blocks in there, but it all has to melt down anyways. I like to take my jute cordage and coil them up in little bundles like this, and that way they fit inside, you know, whatever vessel that you need them to fit inside. You know, it's just real simple. You just take them and just kind of wrap around itself a little bit and make a little coil out of it. You just want to be real gentle when you're messing with this, because you don't want to get any water, you know, interfering with your wax, and you really don't want your wax to get into, you know, your water. It makes it a pain to go ahead and try to clean your pots off. And you could always keep on adding wax if you need more to cover what you need. I'm just wanting to melt these down. That way we start off with a good sized pull. Alright, it's hard to see, but now that wax is melted, we're just going to go and toss in one of our little coils here. And we're just going to move that around a little bit and get that coated in the wax. You just want it to sit in there and really soak in. You know, just a couple minutes should do it. Then when all the wax is absorbed to your cordage there, you just go in real gently, kind of let some of it drip off, and then try to get it out of the pot, maybe onto a piece of wax paper, or I'm just using a paper plate. Just try to get it over there real quick, set her down. And there's our piece of cord that's covered in wax. We're going to let it cool just for a second. You know, you don't want to be grabbing it as soon as it's coming out, because you're going to burn yourself. And you are going to get a little dirty. It's alright. It's all part of it. This stuff ain't going to hurt you. You know, you just don't want to be messing with it when it's too hot, because it will burn you. Still want it reasonably warm. What I like to do is go ahead and kind of pinch it in between my fingers. Just really get that wax to work in there. And it's getting some of the extra off as well. Now you have your piece of waxed jute. Alright, it's a little bit of a process, you know. You just gotta keep on adding a little bit of wax and keep watching it and moving it around. But we ended up with quite a handful of these, and you know, you could even make like these little knotted pieces like that, or you cut these in tiny little strips. I mean, you fluff that up and light that, you know, they burn for a fair amount of time. Since these are wax, they're pretty much waterproof, and all we're gonna do is just stick that in our tube. And you might have some wax get cut a little bit, that's fine. I like to go and run it through the entire tube there, you know, maybe a couple times, and get that little bit of extra coating off, you know, that way it runs smooth. You want this to run as smooth as possible, because as it burns, you know, the flame is going to keep on creeping down, and if you need more, you need to be able to push this out and give that flame more fuel. And whenever you need to put it out, you just pull it. So we'll see if you can see this, but essentially what you do, we'll just use a little lighter here, and it'll burn that little bit of wax off. Okay, now we're on fire. All you do is just pull. Get the top of your tube to come over it, and that will put it out. And if you need more flame or more extended amount of time, you just keep on adding the cord to allow it to have fuel. I just like to have them, you know, fold them up a little bit, stick them in my tin, and it's a good way to go and extend your flame out. You know, once you get them lit, you know that they stay lit. Keep an eye on them, and you go ahead and you can stick them into the fire and get stubborn tinder to light up. You know, say the wind is really bad and your lighter keeps on going out. If you could get this lit, it resists the wind, you know, a little bit better, and then you'd be able to, you know, light your candles, light your lanterns, lighten your stoves. You know, so I think it's a good piece of kit to have. I really do. We're really starting to get things to come together now. I want to show you that there's a bunch of tools that you could be putting in your toolbox. How to make these different items. This stuff is cheap, readily available. You can make things in the home, and that way it's already prepared for you to go out to the field. We have a lot more coming up soon. If you like what you're seeing, remember to hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you out in the woods.